Hi everyone, it's Kelly Herrick here. I'm a wellbeing artist and author, and many of you know, but some of you might not know, that a couple of years ago I started a book project with 33 other women called No Ordinary Words. This may be back to front on here, and I'm doing a series of interviews with our amazing authors, of which Daphne is one, and she's joining me today to talk about the book, but also to talk about women's creativity, how the book has affected us through the time since we've written it, and kind of just dive into all that juicy stuff. So No Ordinary Words is the book, and you can find it still on Amazon as an audio, as a book, and as a Kindle. So please go and have a look at that. And I want to introduce you today to Daphne, who is one of our amazing authors and is currently dialing in from Spain, where she has the most amazing house that she's built with her very hands, which just makes me feel so in awe and so amazed at what she's achieved. So this is what you said about yourself. After a lot of wandering, Daphne ended up near a village on the foot of the Sierra Nevada in Spain, where she lives with all kinds of living beings under a forest of cherry trees. Oh my goodness, it sounds like a storybook. She is a creative in many ways: painting, writing, baking, building. She loves to live in her natural surroundings and reuses what is at hand in many ways. One of her biggest creations is her cob house, where she works most of the time. And from that very cob house, here's Daphne.
Hello, how you doing?
Great. So just tell us a little bit about where you are. You're in Spain, and this house, how long has it taken you to build?
The house took 11, actually starting it and getting in was 11 months exactly. It was really
Wow.
funny. It wasn't done yet. We had to do some stuff, but we could get in and drink the water and start the heating and put
Yeah.
our bed. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so
So
incredible.
11 months. Yeah. It was hard
And
work, but
I love these examples and stories of really capable, practical women, because so often in society, we're allowed to be beautiful or artistic, but as soon as it comes to engineering or technology or building or construction, these things are like still a little bit off limits sometimes for women. So it's so amazing to see that and just
yeah, you have
literally see it.
yeah, and you have bruises everywhere and no nails and that sort of stuff
Yeah, and
when you build a
splinters,
house.
lots and
Yeah.
lots of splinters, I bet. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. So thanks for joining us today. You wrote an amazing chapter, which is, I mean, they've all stayed with me so much anyway, but
Yeah, they
you
were
wrote an
all
amazing,
lovely.
weren't they though? And so diverse, like so many
Yeah,
different topics. We say that it's the real life wisdom of women,
and it
and
is.
it is, and it's 33 women from around the world come together to celebrate the hardships and the celebrations and revelations of life in today's world. And your chapter was all about sovereignty, and I wondered if you
Yeah.
wanted to give us just a little bit of a summary or a little bit of an insight into the chapter.
Yeah,
Just
it
describe it a little.
was finding out actually that wandering where I talked about because there was that
Mm.
wandering moment. Was really finding out sovereignty as being me, like I sort of learned that as a woman you cannot be alone. You have to have the man and other people and stand on your own 2 feet, but like that. And
Hmm.
for me it was like a long year learning curve with a lot of therapy and all kinds of stuff I did to get really accept that I am me and I'm from me and I'm for me. I am sovereign, and the only person I need is me. Really, actually. So yeah, that I have a relationship and we build a house together. But yeah, it's like um, it's like that. It's like we're both sovereign persons and we do our
Yeah.
own thing, and we're not depending on each other anymore that hard. That is, if somebody says no, that we're crying or something. No, it's like you say no, okay, I'll find another way to do what I want to do. No. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
it's
a lot of wandering I did in Spain, actually, with a lot of therapies and clashes with people, and that's what I wrote about. Yeah.
and it felt so when I read your chapter, I was like, you'd opened a door in my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is what I meant. This is what I was thinking. And it was really interesting that I actually, towards the end of last year, I chose sovereignty as my word for this year.
Mm-hmm,
And
you said.
actually, it's kind of changed. And I think sovereignty is still a word for this year, but I've kind of been given by many other things happening around me in the world rebirth instead, which
Oh.
I'll take that. But sovereignty was such a powerful concept, and the way you wrote about it from a woman's point of view was so, yeah, like this chink of light that just opened up. And the more I've sat with your chapter over the last couple of years and reread it and thought about the themes in it, the more it's kind of grown in my own mind. So thank
Oh,
you for
wow.
that. It's been amazing.
That's good. That's good.
So thinking back then to when we started this, I just put out there, didn't I, a random question. Hey, who wants to write a
Hello.
book with me? I know.
Yeah,
And then I was like, oh, maybe 5 or 10 of us. And then we ended up with like 33 of us. So
33. Yeah.
why did you feel called to join in and write your chapter in the book?
Well, at that time, I already was like thinking about writing a book for
Mhm.
myself about the whole wandering I did. Um, but yeah, I think if you would do a pitch for my book, that would be like an um, extraordinary way of dealing with a breakup, no, like that. And
Ah, okay.
I know that what I had, the possibility I had, the traveling, the wandering, and that sort of stuff, it was also it's something special, you know. Not everybody can do that, but you can take away the lessons from my wandering, even if you're not doing the Camino de Santiago and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, like, it's worth sharing um, what I went through and where I ended up, actually. So not only for women, actually, but yeah. So that was like it sort of coincide with my idea of writing a book and your
Yeah.
idea of writing a book, and it's like, well, why not join in right away and use it also as a sort of like practice for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think there was something, it strikes me very much when you talk about wandering and using your story to elevate other people, of Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. It's
Yeah.
got that vibe going on for
Oh,
sure.
really? I never
Um,
did see that, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I can see the links. And do you think that there was something in the fact that it was a collaboration amongst women and that we
Yeah.
were in it together that appealed to you? Like, what do you
Yeah.
want to say about that?
Yeah, I think collaboration anyway. If it's women or men, I don't.
Hmm.
It's always nice if you, and the thing that I didn't even think about, but what happened is we started supporting each other, no, and
Yeah.
even during writing the our chapters, we supported each other, we helped each other, and there were even me, but other people too, who were still passing through their emotions of that story, of that part of their life. And we sort of accompanied everybody going further from there. And I never thought that would happen. Never was in my idea, but
Hmm.
yeah, that was, I think, the most beautiful part of the whole thing, actually, because now my chapter is there in the world and it's like doing its thing. But that part of walking each other through it, that is something that really stayed with me. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
not thinking about it. I was thinking about if it was women or only, no, but because we were women with all kinds of different things, it's like you said, my sovereignty catched me, no, but your story also catched me before, for example, all the about your history and that sort of stuff. And I was like, wow, there was things opening up for me also, no, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the part that stayed the most with me. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how these intensely personal and intimate stories connected us to people who, a few of us knew one another, but quite a lot of us didn't know one another. And I remember getting on phone calls when we first started the project to people, some of you from all around the world, like you're in Europe and Bethany's over in the US and a variety of different places. And people, these women were just like opening up and telling me their stories, really personal things, like straight away. And I hadn't even really got to know them. And I was just like, what a privilege. Like, what an element of trust that we've moved into. And I really feel like this kind of basket of creativity, of having a creative outlet, a creative project, kind of bonded us together so much, so quickly, that we accepted this trust was almost like a given, because we were trusting one another to create something together in the book. And that's quite a vulnerable place to be, to create something. So if we were all vulnerable together, it's like we had this immediate bond, didn't we, of like, I can tell you things about, you know, my desire for belonging. Other people could tell us things about their fertility issues, or their menopause, or their relationships, spiritual relationships, or different kind of issues. And it was like, wow, this is quite intense quite quickly, but in a really positive way. So I love that about it as well. And what do you think then about how writing your chapter helped you at the time? I'm talking more about the writing of it then, and the kind of processing of it that you went through, and maybe those collaborations and chats with the other women. Like, what was it? You talk about it was a way for you to use it as kind of therapy, or to get over a life situation. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. At that time, I thought like, well, they're going to help me to get through. I still work with things still. How many years after writing there's still things like, oh, okay, I thought I was done then. But anyway, yeah. And what it also, what it especially helped me was put things in order. No? It's like a big chaos. It was still what happened to me, and what was the reason why it happened to me. And it was like, ooh, still like that. But putting it all in order, even if it's not in order in time, but the emotions in order, more or less, you know, put them in order. That was for me like, okay, like, you know, when you're going to talk to somebody, you want to tell a story, you have to have a goal. I want to end up there. And it was like, where do I really want to end up with this story, you know? So you have to find your own goal. What was the reason? What did I learn? So for me, it was like really, because I had a whole heap of already during my wandering. I wrote down so many things. So I had a big heap of stuff. And it was like sorting through that and finding the right thing. And I'm like, oh, it's sovereignty, you know, like that. It's like, oh, okay, that it is. Yeah. And then that was for me was I think the best part of the writing stuff. Yeah. That it sort of sorted me more in, okay, that's where I went. And that's where I still go. But,
so it kind of gave you this golden thread that kind of helped you navigate through all of those writings, all of those travel situations, and it kind of helped you process that. And I suppose, there is something in creativity for and of its own sake for yourself is kind of different for creativity to present to other people. So some of the scribblings and the splashes and the painting I do in my sketchbook are not for public consumption. You know, somebody would look at them and go, oh my God, this is rubbish. But to me, it meant something. Whereas when I'm painting for a person, it will be more considered, and it will have a beginning, middle, and an end, and it will be kind of whole. And I think that's quite interesting in the way that a creative, sort of therapeutic, healing, well-being, creative project like this forces you, but in a good way. So it maybe empowers you rather than forces you. Empowers you to like you said, kind of order it and then navigate through it. Because when you're explaining it to somebody else, you choose and curate the important bits and the relevant information. And sometimes I think that helps with the crowded noise inside your head when you're experiencing a situation. It's very different to reporting on a situation, isn't it? Like, so I think that that ordering, that processing, that being able to explain it in with relevance to other people is a really powerful tool that creativity brings us, because even jazz, right? Jazz is considered as a bit chaotic and messy, but they still start the song and still end the song, and there's still a
Instant.
crescendo
Yep.
at some point. So even jazz is kind of ordered and processed in its own way. So I love the way that creativity gifted that to us,
Yeah.
that kind of methodology for us to be able to move forward. And
Yeah,
thinking
and I
then,
thank you.
okay,
Thank you for because I'm painting now. Less writing and more
amazing.
painting. And now you say that about your painting, and I think, yeah, that's the same thing I still go through
It is.
with the sketches and not sketches. Yeah, it's a gift of creativity. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're very welcome. And it's kind of like, what does this mean to me? Create, create, create. How do I then tell this to other people or show this to other people? Create,
Hmm.
create, create. And they're two sides of the same coin, and one informs the other, but they're very often quite different.
Yeah.
Like a scribbling down of a journal on the road versus
Yeah.
a well thought out poem. Like this, they're the same thing, but they're differently put together, I guess. So it's really interesting how maybe if we'd have done a conference and asked everybody to speak, it would have felt very different to being creative and writing a chapter in a book. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
maybe the
think so.
creativity itself was the magic that we needed. You know, maybe that was the thing.
Mm.
So thinking about since the book, you know, since
Mm-hmm.
maybe even since you said yes to it, not necessarily since it was published, but what's changed or shifted for you since, you know, personally for you since the book? I mean, you've talked there about being able to navigate the past situations and stuff. Are there other ways that it's impacted you since you've written it?
It impacted me. Well, actually, the thing was like, in that time, I was like, I'm going to be a writer, and I did write a lot. I had a blog. I still have my blog posted. It's still there, but I don't write anymore so much, you know.
Mm.
And I drifted away from writing, and I know that the sort of the magic there left, and the
Yep.
magic is now on the paper, the painting paper, no. So no, I don't know. I think what it made clear for me is for me it's like when I close something, I see that now with my paintings too. It's done for me, and then it can do what it wants in the world, and then do his thing, and I just go do something else. And I always thought, because I recognize that in other parts, other things that I made creative ways. I did a lot of sculpturing, for example, with clay, and then you bake it, and then it was like, yeah, done. You know. So it's sort of made clear for me that the process, I like the process of creating, and that I'm very good in letting go when it's
Yeah.
done. And that I am also allow myself now to just meander. Where does my creativity go? And that's go with a project like you, and that's going on my own project, and that is going in art, is painting, and that is going in building a house,
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. And I think that is what that's what it in longer time gave me to me. Like, okay, it's like also I just changed my website now, and it's like how I'm gonna put myself, you know, because I have a lot of writing, but I also want to paint my paintings there and that sort of stuff. And then I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm creative, and this is all the ways I show my creativity.
Yeah. It's
And I
beautiful.
think that is what it in the long term gave me, actually, that I'm not like only that, but I'm that, and that. And I'm
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
human, but I have a big, 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 how do you say, container for my creativity or something. Yeah.
And that's amazing. And what's interesting actually is even before we started recording, you talked about life flowing here, flowing there. And then you talk about being a wanderer. We talked about navigating. You've talked about picking things up, dropping them. And I get this sense of movement and travel, which obviously with my fairground heritage, and I kind of feel like,
Yeah,
the
you moved
person moving.
everywhere.
Well, there's
Yeah.
a lot of similarities there. And what I really love is how you talk about all these things, like a bigger container for all of your creativity. And I had a similar moment a couple of years ago where I was working with a creative coach, Kelly Wynn, and we were talking about, it felt like she was a prism for me, and I shone my white light into our sessions, and then all the colors refracted out. And I was like, I don't have to just be the white light. I can be all of the colors of the light. And since then, I've really treated my own creativity. I like to think of it like an old growth forest, like a biodiverse habitat. It's all the
Yeah.
forest, but my writing's one thing, my art's another
Yeah.
thing, and it's lovely to put them all together, isn't it? Because society would have us believe that we have to be this one
That
boxed
thing.
in thing. And it's hard for a creative person to do
Yeah.
that, I
Yeah.
think. I love
That's
that.
nice that you say forest. And
Yeah.
I'm with water now.
Oh,
And that's
wonderful.
also like you have the forest, like everything is like how do you call that?
Kind of
Uh
interrelated.
yeah, interrelated. And if you do water, it's like water changes shape so quickly every time.
Yes. Yeah,
And you can
yeah.
pour it in something and then it has the shape of the cup. But it can also be a drop of water and then it goes into the river and then to the sea and then back in the air. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's like two things, but I like the forest too, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the water analogy as well. As a
Mm,
Moana fan, I can
yeah.
I can definitely speak to that. And I'm thinking about, from not just from yourself, but the wider effect. Like, has being part of that creative process or writing your chapter or kind of facing your challenges in your chapter kind of had a wider effect in your work, your relationships, your community? Like, has there been anything that you've brought forward that has been like a wisdom or a learning or a behavioral change that's affected beyond yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, I would like to say that I changed the world with it. The world is a better place now. Um, in the way it changed my surroundings, I think is because what I see now, no, your sovereignty, being more sovereign, just makes that you relate differently to people. And I cannot say I affected this person that way because of me, but I think it's unseen for me now. I
Yeah.
think, but yeah, yesterday we had a chat with friends of us together, and we were talking about astrology and that sort of stuff. And but it's also like, because I can be more myself. Somebody else said like, oh, it's so nice to have you here and see that there's someone else who's a little bit like me too. No, like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's small parts. I also think the book, the people who read it, just some people who read it, I don't is a daughter of somebody, and yeah, I don't know her personally, but she said like, oh, you have a book, yeah, right. And she went read right away my chapter, and then you just like, okay. And now I can see, we don't talk so much about it because I see her just so less, not so many times, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see the effect. Yeah,
And we never
her
know
life,
the
but you
impact we're
never know
having.
the
No.
big impact you have. And um but yeah, it is like um because of this whole process that I did, it's like I can be more myself, more really authentic. And I think if you're being authentic, the rest can be more authentic. And if the rest can be more authentic, I think the world in the end can be more authentic. I really, really believe in that. The change in the world is in the small things that you do with your little community. It ripples out because they have other people in another community where they in, and it ripples out by himself. It doesn't go that quickly in beginning, but in the end it will be big, but no, I cannot really see like, I changed this and this and this, but because I changed, and not even the story, but also putting the story out is also a thing, no, like, I'm gonna, a lot of people had that, like, I'm gonna write about this, and I'm not really gonna publish this, like that, but now it's out, and it's out. And but that's also a pace of being authentic, and like, okay, I'm gonna tell my story. And I think that is very important, that we just honestly, vulnerably, artistically need to tell our stories, and in a way that, is it changing the whole world? I don't know, but I don't think, I'm in this process with my creativity now too, like, to whom am I giving this, to whom am I giving my energy, my creativity? And I pulled a card on it, and it was like, to the higher heart of the universe, and thinking, yeah, that's it. That's where it needs to go. And that's it. And I think, telling a story that so personal and open, it somehow will ripple out.
Yeah. And coming back to your water analogy, it's like the drip of water that over thousands of years makes the cave, isn't it? It's like, it's consistent, and it happens, and then it kind of gets bigger. So
and the little drop, and the little drop doesn't know what
exactly
he's doing,
and we can only change ourselves. We've got no ability to change anyone else. So I think that's like, from a sovereignty point of view, that's the place to start. We focus so much on trying to change everybody else, everyone else, everything else. This sovereignty and accepting responsibility for ourselves and changing that is like a really amazing place to start. So just to round it off, then I just thought it would be interesting. Obviously the book is for women, written by women. It's also written for, all the proceeds go to 2 women's charities, Treesisters and She Has Hope. So the whole thing is kind of like a women's project driven through. But guys, men, please read this, because also you will learn so much about
there were guys from us, from our group partners, from the girls who wrote there. They read a book too. It's not only for women.
They were quite, their eyes were open, let's say. So what would you say to other women who might be thinking about creating or stepping into a creative project or a collaboration, not necessarily a book, but anything at all? What would your advice or motivation be to those women?
Well, it's like, yesterday we talked about it, actually, that about people who start, who don't, and like, they were like, we were all different people, and 2 of us were like, but and somebody said to us, but you just do it. And I said, like, just do it. And yes, I hate the ugly part. I have a few paintings here that have an ugly part now. We have to go through the ugly part, and that is a learning curve. Absolutely. But who said that life would be easy? So art is life, and it's not always easy, but it is a path for learning yourself. And like I said, like, when you know yourself, you can be more authentically yourself, and then people will start being authentic with you. So we were like, and then the lady asked, like, but don't you have like moments that you think like, oh, I'm gonna stop? I say, and see. And sometimes I just tear up the paper, and they're like, okay, again.
Go again.
Doesn't go nowhere. But and that's so it is. I talk a lot about water. It's like, flow to the sea, however you go. But I'm also Leo, so I have a lot of fire. So it's sometimes you have to just not going like the water drop, make the cave in millions of years, but you have to sometimes explode a drop. Explode a stone. That's okay too. To get through. So you can use both, and it might be difficult, but I thought the end is worth it, because you get to know yourself so much better. And with a project like this, you get to know yourself so much better, because the other 32 people, they are also a mirror for you. And like, oh, well, that part. Because like fertilization problems, I would never think about it, but it's really good to read about that. My choice was no children, but then people who want children and cannot get it is a whole other story. It's so, but it's also part of me, no?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's also really, really nice. It's you can use all those things also as a mirror for yourself. Everything, really.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, it's taking part in a creative project will hold up a mirror to yourself and use what energy is right for you, whether it's the drip or whether it's the tidal wave. I think is just perfect advice. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to say goodbye, go check out the book, and we're going to have some more of these conversations here on this channel, so please subscribe and you will find them as they get released. Bye everyone.
Bye. Buy the book.